The third time Serafina asked for a divorce because of Dorian, I agreed, but then she seemed to regret it. You better not be playing hard to get. I'm not kidding. Looking at the face I'd loved for 5 years, I smiled, finally feeling a sense of relief. Neither am I replied. Let's get divorced. Serafina stared coldly at my signature on the divorce papers. Are you serious? Seeing my silence, Serafina looked up, her eyes filled with a mix of complex emotions. I'm not joking, Elias. Don't play games with me. I've seen these kinds of tricks before. I lowered my head, trying to recall Serafina's smile, but the memory of her laughing had already grown hazy. When did it start? When did Serafina stop even bothering to smile at me? Our wedding day, probably. Marrying a man she didn't love, then being stuck with me, unable to divorce when her lover returned. She had every reason to hate me. Why would she ever smile at me? I took a deep breath, looked at her calmly, and said, enunciating each word, yes, I know. I agree to the divorce. Hearing my answer, Serafina's brow furrowed instantly. She took a step forward, as if trying to see if I was pulling some kind of stunt. Elias, this is your last chance. I looked up at Serafina. Her eyes were still as cold as ice. I knew she was only asking again to make sure I wouldn't back out. Everyone knew that as soon as her divorce was finalized, she and Dorian were planning to fly abroad. Late at night, I had imagined this moment countless times, the heartache almost suffocating me. But now that it was actually happening, I felt surprisingly light. It turned out I really could let go. Serafina, I called her name softly. A flicker of something, maybe hope, passed through her eyes, quickly replaced by an I knew it expression. I knew you couldn't let go. Before she could finish, I took off the necklace and placed it in her palm. Once, during an argument, I'd asked Serafina why she never wore a wedding ring. She had drunk a lot that day, and she looked at me with a longing and reluctance I'd never seen before. She said only Dorian had the right to leave a mark on her ring finger. That's why we didn't exchange rings at our wedding. Only this necklace I had custom-made, engraved with her name. Serafina's words died in her throat. 5 years ago, I married her full of joy, thinking it was the beginning of happiness. 5 years later, we were parting ways. This relationship, 5 years of mutual torment, was finally over. Goodbye, Serafina. Before marrying Serafina, I had no idea Dorian even existed. It wasn't until our wedding, when I followed Serafina's gaze across the room to where it lingered, that I saw him, a man who looked remarkably like me. Only then did I realize the whole thing was a joke. But I loved Serafina too much. After countless internal struggles, I still chose to stand by her side. During the toasts, Dorian approached me with a polite smile, greeting me naturally. I've heard Serafina mention you often. It's nice to finally meet you in person. Thank you for being there for Serafina all these years. To show my blessing for you both, I'll drink to that. I stood there stunned. His tone felt like some kind of declaration. So I looked at Serafina, but her eyes didn't meet mine, not even for a second. Frowning, Serafina snatched the glass from his hand and drank it all in one gulp. In that moment, the way Dorian looked at Serafina was all too familiar to me. It was the look one gives their beloved, but I was the one standing beside Serafina right then. After the reception, Serafina and I saw the guests off. Dorian was the last one to leave. His eyes were red, clearly showing he had just been crying. Serafina looked at him, her eyes filled with sympathy. Aware of my presence, she swallowed the comforting words she wanted to say, letting out only a sigh. The taxi pulled over to the curb. Serafina reached for the door handle just as Dorian did, their hands brushing against each other. Even though Serafina snatched hers back as if shocked, I saw the whole thing clearly. Serafina, are you still wearing a watch I gave you? Dorian asked, a hint of hope flickering in his eyes as he looked at her. Serafina paused before replying. Yeah, I got used to wearing it, so I never swapped it out. They fell into conversation, reminiscing about a past only they shared. I just stood there, feeling like a third wheel, completely out of place. It slowly dawned on me that my marriage might be in crisis. That night, Serafina and I had our first major fight since we got married. I demanded she take off the watch. She just frowned, her face etched with impatience, and snapped. Can you stop being so unreasonable? You're a grown man. I stared at her in disbelief, demanding loudly why she'd hidden her past with Dorian from me, but she remained silent, turning her head away. The long silence felt like a sharp knife slowly slicing away what little composure I had left. Finally, I broke down. I couldn't stand the thought of the woman I loved still clinging to mementos of a past love. I lunged forward, grabbing her shirt tightly, straining on my tiptoes to look her straight in the eye. You were first loves? You kissed. You slept together. You promised each other forever. Your ring finger was supposed to be reserved for him. You never told me any of this. Why did you hide it from me? What does that make me in all this? Serafina's face turned ashen. She shoved me away forcefully and tried to storm out, slamming the door behind her. I blocked her path, demanding she answer me. That day, for the first time, I saw genuine disgust in Serafina's eyes when she looked at me. Before leaving, she threw one last sentence at me. Elias, if anything were really going to happen between Dorian and me, it would have long before now. Did you honestly think it would ever have been your turn? Deep down, I think I always knew our marriage wouldn't last, but I clung to the hope to try to get through one day at a time. I really loved her so much it clouded my judgment. I couldn't imagine how I'd get through life without Serafina. I thought if I just loved her enough, she'd eventually come around. But people get swept up in the moment, saying I loved her to the point of losing my mind. Clearly I was getting carried away. Or maybe I didn't love her deeply enough. Looking back, if I had understood then that a quick break is better than prolonged pain, maybe things wouldn't have ended up like this. Serafina's face was thunderous, like I'd committed some heinous crime. I scoffed inwardly. Was it because I agreed to the divorce too readily? Did it wound her pride? At this stage, who even cared about that anymore? All right then, let's meet tomorrow morning to finalize things, I said, getting up to leave. While I was waiting for the elevator, Serafina ran out and blocked my way. Elias, what exactly is your game here? I looked at her, almost amused. Even now, at the very end, she was worried I had some ulterior motive. What game could I possibly be playing? I'd simply come to my senses, decided to let her go, and free myself in the process. I took a step back, gently removing her arm from mine. I tried my best to keep my voice calm. Let me tell you one last time, seriously, I agree to the divorce. You don't have to worry about me harassing you. If you're really that unsure, we can get lawyers involved tomorrow to draw up a formal agreement. I have no interest in your future life with Dorian, and I certainly won't go looking for trouble. You don't need to be on guard around me. God, I was good, I thought. I must have looked so damn cool right then. No. Serafina's eyes were red as she stared straight at me. Her voice trembled slightly. Tell me, why did you agree to the divorce this time? I was a bit lost but replied calmly. I'm just exhausted. Is it because of your birthday? My birthday? It had been so unpleasant I'd selectively erased it from my memory. I didn't expect her to remember. Then again, the first time Serafina had brought up divorce was right after that birthday. I knew Serafina was busy with work, so I'd made plans with her a week in advance to go to the marine park for my birthday. I got up early that day, excited, and headed out. We agreed to meet at noon, but a clock came and went, and there was still no sign of Serafina. I couldn't reach her phone. Sitting on a bench, a dull ache spread through my chest, leaving me dazed. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. It was a message from a friend. Wow, like an old married couple, still keeping things romantic. Attached was a candid photo taken inside a movie theater. In the photo, Serafina wore a white slip dress, and Dorian wore the shirt Serafina had mentioned buying for me. It's no wonder my friend mistook him for me. We really do look alike. So while Serafina wasn't answering her phone, she was watching a movie with him. All the strength drained out of me instantly. I sat in the park for a long time until the staff started clearing the area. Only then did I finally get up, completely dejected, and leave. While I got home, Serafina was sitting on the sofa. Seeing me, she frowned, her tone sharp with reproach. If I didn't answer my phone, it must have been for something important. Look at you. You look like some lunatic off the street. In that moment, all the anger I'd held back throughout the day erupted. We fought fiercely. Serafina stood there stunned for a moment, then yelled back at me. Elias, what the hell do you want? Your important thing was watching a movie with Dorian, wasn't it? You want to get back together with him, don't you? Silence crashed down in the room the moment the words left my mouth. Realizing I'd lost control, I took a deep breath and turned toward the bedroom, intending to calm down before trying to talk things through properly with Serafina. But just as the door was about to close, Serafina suddenly spoke. Yes, I want to start over with Dorian. She slumped onto the sofa, looking at me coldly. I love him. If I could, I wish you were the one I married. Are you satisfied now? Being with you is just so exhausting. It was just a movie. Did you have to make such a big deal out of it? Can't we just celebrate your birthday another time? See, even then, she still didn't grasp why I was angry. It seemed like after that day, Serafina started handing me divorce papers repeatedly. She knew I wouldn't sign, but she'd present them anyway, mocking my hysterical reactions and blaming me. Elias, it's your fault our marriage ended up like this. If I'd known you were this kind of person, I would never have gotten married in the first place. And now here she was, dredging up the past again. When I didn't answer, Serafina pushed, repeating, "Is it because of the birthday?" I looked at her face. I don't know when exactly it happened, but I'd lost all patience for explaining things to her. Even if I had a million things I wanted to say, I no longer had any desire for her to hear them. She doesn't love me, so she'll never put me first. If we absolutely had to assign some tidy reason to our failed marriage, a faint smile played on my lips as I looked at her. Yes, it's because of my birthday. Fine, I'd give her the answer she seemed to want. Serafina stood rooted to the spot, her gaze fixed on me, lost in thought. Her lips were slightly parted as if she wanted to say something else, but after hesitating, she ultimately chose silence. After a long pause, Serafina finally managed to speak, her voice strained. "You can stay, the house is yours." Hearing this, I immediately grabbed my bag and turned back inside. Who was I to argue with that? Once inside, Serafina started quietly packing her bags. Truthfully, there wasn't much left for her to take. She had already moved most of her things to Dorian's place. Aside from a few changes of clothes and her toiletries, there was nothing of hers left here. I sat on the sofa watching her go back and forth with a strange sense of ease. Feelings really are bizarre. Just the day before, I'd wanted nothing more than to keep Serafina chained to my side. Now I was just annoyed by how slowly she was packing. "What time tomorrow?" I asked her. Serafina acted as if she hadn't heard me, just kept sorting through her things. I felt a surge of impatience and asked again, louder this time. I said, "What time tomorrow?" Serafina stood with her back to me, her hands hanging limply at her sides. Serafina asked what time we were getting the divorce. Suddenly, she violently kicked over the suitcase on the floor. She spun around, staring hard at me, her dark eyes swirling with too many emotions: accusation, blame, a hint of hurt and confusion. I couldn't decipher it all, and I didn't have the energy to try. After a long moment, Serafina spoke. "First thing tomorrow morning, when the office opens." My face remained impassive, but bitterness churned inside me. It wasn't Serafina I would miss, but the version of myself who had loved her so deeply. Perhaps I'd never love anyone that passionately again. I got up, righted the suitcase she had kicked over, and placed it near her hand. "It's getting late. You should go." Elias, I watched her quietly, waiting. How we went from being in love to where we are today, it's all. She had barely started when I cut her off with a short, mocking laugh. "It's all my fault, I know." My voice dripped with sarcasm. "You've said that so many times, I'm sick of hearing it." I smiled easily, as if telling a joke that had nothing to do with me. The countless heart-wrenching memories were hidden behind that seemingly effortless smile. My mistake was loving someone I shouldn't have, believing words I shouldn't have believed. I hope you spend the rest of your life unhappy. Dorian was already waiting downstairs to pick her up. Before leaving, Serafina kept turning back. "Elias, I'm leaving, okay?" "Go." "I'm really leaving now." "All right, go." Well then. The third time she tried to stall, I'd had enough. I pushed her out the door and slammed it shut. Serafina stood in the hallway, feeling the lingering warmth from my push. On the video feed from the intercom, she just stood there, staring blankly at her suitcase. I didn't miss the longing and reluctance in her eyes, but so what? That night, I slept more soundly than I had in a long time. The heavy weight on my chest was finally gone. No more being jolted awake by nightmares of Dorian and Serafina's happiness. It was all over. The next day, Dorian walked up from across the street with Serafina on his arm. I stood alone. Dorian greeted me warmly, like we were the closest of friends. I ignored him completely, brushed past them without a word, and strode into the Civil Affairs Bureau. It was a weekday morning, and the hall wasn't crowded. Serafina and I finished the paperwork quickly. Looking at the receipt in my hand, there was a day cooling-off period for the divorce. In another days, I'd be completely cut off from Serafina. Gazing up at the clear blue sky, I felt a little dazed. Once, I'd held a marriage registration receipt just like this, dreaming of the future, vowing to be with her forever. Serafina stood beside me silently, while Dorian nearby looked as thrilled as if he'd won the lottery. It was still early. I suddenly felt like going to the supermarket, maybe cook a big meal tonight. Suddenly, a woman's voice called from behind me. Elias. In an instant, a familiar figure surfaced from the depths of my memory. I turned around. She was already standing right in front of me. She took off her sunglasses, glancing at Serafina beside me, her voice tinged with amusement. I heard something good happened to you recently. Turns out you got divorced. Happy divorce. I hadn't expected Chloe to show up here. The last time we met, I think, was at the wedding. My memory of that day is remarkably clear. The night before the wedding, a friend called, telling me Chloe had passed out drunk at that bar we always went to and wouldn't go home no matter what they said. I sighed and asked my friend to hand the phone to Chloe. Chloe took the phone, her voice slurring. Elias, congratulations on getting married. I'm really happy for you. I felt helpless, but couldn't bring myself to scold her, so I softened my tone. If you're happy, why drink so much? Will you even be able to get up for the wedding tomorrow? After a brief silence, there was still no sound from the other end. I patiently coaxed her again. Even if you're happy for me, you need to take care of yourself. Just go home and rest now, okay? On the wedding day, Chloe showed up on time as a bridesmaid. She stood beside me, a polite smile on her face, helping me greet the guests. Back then, watching her bustling around so thoughtfully, I even praised her. You're amazing. Anyone who didn't know better might think it was your wedding. Chloe just smiled without saying anything. Only my friend beside me gave me a look like I was an idiot, then shook their head meaningfully. Of course she's putting her heart into it, for you. At the time, I only had eyes for Serafina and didn't pay attention to what my friend said. The ceremony began, and I stood on the platform with Serafina on my arm. Below, Chloe's gaze never left me, her eyes holding an emotion I couldn't decipher. She said, Elias, I wish you a lifetime of happiness. Chloe left before the wedding was even over. I tried contacting her afterward, but I never got a reply. Over time, I eventually pushed the matter to the back of my mind. Seeing her again 5 years later, I felt momentarily disoriented. Chloe laughed and poked my head, just like she used to, leaning her face close to mine. You haven't forgotten me, have you? The familiar scent of her perfume pulled me back to the present. It was the one I'd given her for her birthday once. I didn't expect her to still be using it. Looking at her face, an inexplicable anger flared up inside me, disappearing suddenly and then reappearing just as suddenly. Why would I remember someone like you? Chloe burst out laughing. Well then, should we get reacquainted? Her teasing made me smile despite myself. I asked why she was here. Besides my friends, I hadn't told anyone about the divorce, but Chloe just gave a vague reply. Fate, I guess. Phew. Serafina's voice cut in abruptly. She was staring intently at Chloe. Although she didn't speak, I could clearly see the hostility in Serafina's eyes. I ignored her and pulled out my phone, intending to call her friends. Since you're back, let's call everyone and get together tonight. Chloe pulled me closer to her side. No need. I already talked to them. Tonight, same old place. The same old place? The bar we used to hang out at all the time. Elias hurt his stomach pulling all-nighters last year. He can't drink. Silence fell around us. I looked at Serafina, confused. What was she doing? Serafina seemed to realize she'd overstepped, awkwardly turning away to avoid my eyes. Chloe, however, got fired up and shot back at Serafina, refusing to back down. What right do you have to butt into other people's business? Serafina gritted her teeth and snapped back viciously. The cooling-off period isn't over. I'm still legally his wife. Listening to Serafina, I almost had a laugh. Just 2 weeks ago, she was saying, I can't wait to divorce you. Honestly, she seemed even more eager than I was. Chloe glanced at Serafina, then turned to the pale-faced Dorian beside her, smirking mockingly. Having second thoughts? Does he agree? Serafina finally seemed to notice Dorian, quickly grabbing her hand. Dorian, that's not what I meant. TSK. Trying to hide it both ways, are we? I had to hand it to Chloe. She knew how to land a punch. I never liked it when Chloe argued. I used to always warn her to watch what she said, that words could cause trouble. But right now, I was glad the person who had shielded me 5 years ago was still stepping in front of me when I needed her. After her outburst, Chloe shot me a quick glance out of the corner of her eye. I knew she was worried I might be upset. You? What gives you the right to talk like that? Dorian pointed a trembling finger at Chloe, shaking with anger. Chloe rolled her eyes. Because you knew damn well what you were doing when you became the other woman. Ha ha ha. I couldn't hold it in anymore and burst out laughing. It was the first time I'd felt genuinely happy in a long, long time. People really are selfish. Dorian's face flushed red, but she knew she had no ground to stand on. Serafina, meanwhile, was just staring at me, seemingly lost in thought as I laughed. Let's go, Serafina mumbled, head down, and turned to leave. Chloe couldn't resist twisting the knife. It looks like she's ditching you. I stood there, a wave of emotion washing over me. The Serafina I remembered was always looking down on me, criticizing me, showing her distaste, even belittling me. No matter where we were, I never complained, not once, because I loved her. But now I didn't. How pathetic. People are like that, aren't they? Chasing after the moon, then tossing it aside like trash once they have it. Our plans changed from a bar to a hot pot place. Our other friend had to work late, so it was just Chloe and me facing each other in a private booth. The atmosphere felt a little charged. Chloe picked up some cooked duck intestines with her chopsticks and placed them in my bowl. I looked at her, surprised. You remembered I like duck intestines. I remember everything about you. The room was quiet except for the soft bubbling of the hot pot broth. Steam rose between us, blurring Chloe's face, but I could hear my own heart pounding like a drum. Serafina hated gamey smells. She used to say that after I ate things like this, I smelled like a barnyard, that it was disgusting. After she said that, I stopped eating them altogether. I changed myself to please Serafina, but she just took it for granted. She probably didn't even remember any of it. It was insignificant to her. Early last year, Dorian moved to Haiching. Around the same time, Serafina started staying out almost every night. I could never reach her, never knew where she was. Tonight, I really enjoyed the hot pot. Duck intestines, chicken gizzards, pork stomach. I ate almost defiantly, stuffing myself. Chloe just watched me and smiled. The next day, I was woken up by knocking on the door. I opened it to find Serafina standing there. What is it? Oh, I forgot some things. I stepped aside, gesturing for her to come in. Make it quick. When I sat down on the couch, Serafina was still standing in the doorway. I looked at her, confused. Aren't you coming in? Serafina kept her head down, clutching something behind her back that was making a crinkling sound. Following the sound, I saw it was the trash bag I'd thrown out last night. Where did she dig that out from? Disgusted, I got up and stood in the doorway, afraid she'd bring the trash bag back inside. Seemingly hurt by my action, Serafina froze. You don't want any of this? She meant the gift she'd given me, now in the trash bag, proof of our short-lived love. Things I once treasured, and now just the thought of it coming inside felt repulsive. Yeah, it's just clutter. Serafina stood rooted to the spot for a long moment, then suddenly ripped the bag open, dumping everything out onto the floor. She crouched down, her hands rummaging frantically through the pile. These are the photo booth pictures from our first date. This is the bracelet I gave you when we first got together. These are the plaster dolls we painted together. Finally, she pulled out the necklace engraved with her name. Even this, you don't want it anymore? In that moment, Serafina's expression made me think she'd burst into tears if I nodded. I nodded vigorously. Yep. Don't want it. Take it if you want. You could probably sell it for scrap and make a few bucks. Hearing this, a flicker of light appeared in Serafina's eyes, and she forced a pained smile at me. Can I really take it? Looking pathetic, Serafina knelt on the floor, scooping the discarded items back into the ripped bag, handful by handful. I rolled my eyes at her, and she happened to catch it. When I came back from getting some water, Serafina was standing by the door again, eyes brimming with tears, looking pitiful. Could I have a bag? My stomach was growling. I really didn't have the energy to deal with her, so I turned and went into the kitchen. There's one on the table, get yourself one. Serafina fumbled around at the door for a while longer before finally coming inside. Seeing me cooking in the kitchen, she sat down quietly at the dining table. Serafina stared at my back, lost in thought for a long time. Looking at her, I wondered if the whole thing had scrambled her brains. I called her name a few times before she snapped out of it, and gave me an apologetic smile. Sorry. I just remembered how you used to cook for me in the kitchen like this. We were so happy then. Serafina. I cut her off sharply. Have you gathered your things? Yes. Then is there anything else? I was clearly telling her to leave. Serafina hesitated, then looked at the dishes on the table and asked, could I stay for dinner? I stared at her, surprised, then glanced at the table. Braised pig brains, stir-fried duck hearts, scallion-fried tripe. Didn't she hate this stuff? To avoid Serafina doing something else off-putting, I shut her down completely. It's not convenient. You should go. Serafina sensed my displeasure. You really don't want to spend even one more second with me, right? You don't even want to talk to me, right? Serafina gave a bitter smile. So you really hate me this much? I lowered my gaze, thinking about her words. Did I hate Serafina? Not really. She had already exhausted every bit of feeling I ever had for her, so even now, after everything, I still didn't hate her. I simply didn't want anything more to do with her ever again. Seeing my silence after a long standoff, Serafina finally picked up her torn bag and got ready to leave. As she reached the door, she suddenly turned back. Elias, about that day when I said I wanted a divorce, wasn't really. Serafina's words stopped abruptly because she saw Chloe coming out of the bedroom. Not really, then what was it? Chloe raised an eyebrow, walking over to my side and looking at Serafina with amusement. Serafina's eyes instantly turned bloodshot. She lunged forward and grabbed a handful of Chloe's hair. What are you doing here? You too. Chloe didn't hold back, kicking Serafina hard in the stomach. Serafina stumbled, falling straight backward. Serafina clutched her stomach in pain, her face pale. She frowned, her eyes searching mine. Maybe she was hoping I'd still feel sorry for her, like I used to before. No matter how angry I was, seeing her like that always made me soften. But now all I felt was disgust. Seeing I wasn't moved, Serafina gritted her teeth against the pain, scrambled up, and swung her fist at Chloe. Stop it! I yelled sharply. Serafina froze. Elias, she hit me too. I nodded. Yeah, I saw. Then why didn't you say anything to her? What? I lowered my head, thinking about her words. Maybe it was favoritism. Even after all this time, the thought still brought a dull ache to my heart. That year, at Serafina's company party, she attended with Dorian. When I arrived, they were gazing deeply into each other's eyes on the dance floor, a connection so intimate no one else could penetrate it. I fought back the churning discomfort inside me, struggling to keep my expression calm. I thought then if I made a scene with Serafina here, she would definitely be furious. When the song ended, Serafina took Dorian's hand, and they slowly stepped off the stage. Seeing me, Dorian let go of Serafina's hand and gave me an apologetic smile. Serafina said you don't like these kinds of events, so she asked me to come with her. But the next second, right in front of me, Serafina took Dorian's hand again, the affection in her eyes practically overflowing. She looked at Dorian, her gaze firm. The dance is still going. Serafina's words snapped my last shred of composure. Anger and hurt surged through me. I rushed forward and yanked Dorian away from Serafina's side. You can't hold his hand. Elias, what are you doing? Serafina's voice was piercing in the noisy hall. Ignoring everyone present, she shoved me hard, ran to Dorian's side, and carefully helped him up. I stared at Serafina, tears blurring my vision, and screamed at her, completely breaking down. Serafina, I'm your husband. Who do you choose, him or me? In that moment, Serafina looked at me like I was a total stranger. Elias, don't embarrass yourself. A familiar ache spread through my heart. I took a deep breath, tried to erase these unbearable memories. Chloe's kick had been satisfying. That was enough. The past couldn't be changed, and I shouldn't dwell on it anymore. Let's eat. Chloe ate with gusto while I sat beside her, waiting to refill her bowl. This is delicious. I'm so lucky I get to eat your cooking. Chloe had never been stingy with her compliments towards me. She always found something good in me, told me I was the best, providing emotional support. I always felt relaxed when I was with her. Thinking back, after we got married, Serafina never seemed to compliment me. She only hated me and everything related to me. Seeing me lost in thought, a flicker of sympathy crossed Chloe's eyes. Sensing the awkward atmosphere, I gave Chloe an apologetic smile, but Chloe looked serious. Thinking about the past again? Caught. I forced a smile, trying to look casual. No, I was just wondering if there's enough rice left in the pot. If it were me, I would never make you sad. I froze for a moment. I was about to push her away, but when I looked up, I met her intense gaze. She was serious. I averted my gaze, catching the scent of Chloe's body wash, unsure what to say, but silence is its own kind of rejection. After a long moment, Chloe got up, returned to her seat, and went back to eating enthusiastically, pretending nothing had happened. This tripe is perfectly crispy, amazing. Even though Chloe seemed back to her usual carefree self, I could tell she was forcing a smile. Chloe, I'm sorry. With a grain of rice stuck to her lip, Chloe heard my apology, dropped her chopsticks, and hurriedly protested, "It's okay. Don't say that." Her reaction made me laugh. Chloe stared at me for a moment, then laughed too. We talked for a long time that day. She told me everything about the past few years, from home to abroad, from starry nights to moonlit skies, from the sea to the desert. Until the sun sank below the western hills, Chloe lingered reluctantly at the door. "Can I really not stay one more night?" I gave her a firm no. Yesterday, it started pouring rain just as Chloe was leaving. She was soaked through and didn't have a change of clothes, so I let her stay the night in the guest room. As for Serafina's misunderstanding, I figured letting her believe whatever she wanted wasn't such a bad thing. After Chloe left, I sat on the sofa thinking about what she'd said to me during dinner. I could sense Chloe's feelings for me, but I didn't know how to respond. She's a great person, but I couldn't just jump out of one relationship and immediately into another. That night, I couldn't sleep again. Afterwards, Chloe started showing up at my door early every morning, urging me to finish breakfast so she could drag me out to the mall, the movies, the beach. Chloe acted like she'd never confessed her feelings, and I kept quiet about it too. It was like her words became our unspoken secret. The day cooling off period passed quickly. Serafina and I stood together again at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, only this time things were completely different. Chloe was by my side while Serafina stood alone. Before the official stamped the papers, Serafina looked at me hopefully. "Elias, I've thought seriously about our relationship. If you don't want this, Serafina." I cut her off before she could continue. "Let's just get this over with. Chloe and I have plans to go to the aquarium." "Chloe." It's always Chloe. Serafina suddenly became agitated at the mention of her name. I nodded. "Yes, her." Serafina's brow furrowed, her eyes fixed on me. "You're rushing this divorce for her, aren't you? You two have been messing around behind my back all along, right?" "Huh." I laughed, looking at her like she was an idiot. "Serafina, you haven't forgotten that you were the one who handed me the divorce papers, have you?" Serafina froze, a flash of panic in her eyes. That was just because I was angry." Angry? A piece of paper that could completely end our marriage, our relationship, and she was telling me it was just because she was angry? I didn't have the energy to dwell on it. Saying even one more word to Serafina felt like a waste of life. Whether she was angry or serious, it didn't matter. I just wanted to end everything related to Serafina quickly. Whatever. Serafina grabbed my hand, her tone almost pleading. "Elias, we don't have to go through with this. We were always happy, weren't we?" My tone was mocking. "Why not? Who was happy? Or are you saying you've changed your mind, realized you're deeply in love with me, and can't live without me?" But Serafina was speechless, finally lowering her head helplessly. "Love you? How could I? The only one I love is Dorian." I rolled my eyes at her. "Good. Being loved by you would make me sick." The official stamp landed on the divorce certificate. Serafina and I were finally completely finished. Before I got in the car, Serafina ran over and asked, "Elias, if I hadn't given you those divorce papers that day, would you have asked me for a divorce?" I looked straight at her, trying hard to find a trace of the spirited young woman she used to be, but it was useless. "Serafina, we were always going to end up apart. Love can't survive lies and betrayal. Even without the divorce papers, or even without Dorian, our relationship was doomed to fail anyway." Serafina did love me once, however briefly, so when she stopped loving me, I could feel it. Avoiding it was futile, lying to myself wouldn't solve anything. Friends booked a private room to celebrate me being single again. Then they had to go work overtime, leaving Chloe and me staring awkwardly at each other. I noticed Chloe was starting to act cautiously, not at all like her usual carefree self. Maybe my gaze was too direct, because Chloe gave an awkward laugh. "Elias, if this is uncomfortable, maybe we should get together another time?" At that moment, I realized no matter how much we pretended, The mark left by her words wouldn't disappear. If I didn't want to lose the person in front of me, the only thing I could do was face the issue head-on. I wiped my mouth and suddenly shouted, "Chloe!" Chloe jumped, startled. Spraying the shredded potatoes, she just put her mouth all over the table. Seeing Chloe's confused expression, I immediately felt like backing down. After hesitating for a moment, I still spoke up. "You like me, don't you?" Chloe's face flushed red instantly. She looked around guiltily, then reached out and touched my forehead. "You don't have a fever? Are you delirious?" I got a little angry and slapped her hand away. Seeing I was serious, Chloe reluctantly met my gaze. How did you know?" "I guessed." Chloe was silent for a couple of seconds. "So what do you want?" "I'm sorry." Hearing my apology, Chloe probably guessed how this would end. She lowered her head, a bitter smile playing on her lips, muttering under her breath, "Can't even get picked for sloppy seconds." For some reason, seeing her looking so downcast, my heart ached a little. I sighed. "It's not what you think." Chloe froze, looking up at me, waiting for me to continue. "I've always considered you my best friend, and I'm really grateful that you've always been there for me. But I just got out of a failed relationship, and I don't want to jump into something with you while my emotions are still a mess." "Chloe, it's okay. I'll wait for you." After clearing the air, Chloe and I could hang out comfortably again. A few days later, I was lying in bed after dinner when my phone rang. It was Serafina. "What's up?" "I have something I want to tell you." "Can you open the door?" I was speechless. "Couldn't you just knock?" I opened the door but blocked the entrance, not letting Serafina in. "Whatever you have to say it quickly." Serafina looked like a wounded puppy. After a moment of silence, she suddenly pulled a gift box from behind her back. "This is for you, the one you always wanted." I opened it. The shirt was identical to the one Dorian was wearing in the photo my friend sent on my birthday. "This shirt should be discontinued by now. Where did you buy this?" Serafina hesitated, then stammered, "A personal shopper snagged it." Smelling the familiar perfume on it, I looked at her contemptuously. "Did you rip it off Dorian's back?" Not expecting me to say that, Serafina froze, staring at me in confusion. "How did you know?" I sighed. "Before the divorce, you found ways to torment me, and now you're still haunting me." Serafina clenched her fists tightly, her eyes turning red. "No, Elias, I originally bought this for you. He just put it on himself." A bitter feeling rose in my chest. We were already divorced, and she still had to make up these lies to cover for herself. "Serafina, you're unbelievable." With that, I stepped back behind the door, intending to close it. Serafina grew desperate, meeting my eyes, the defense on the tip of her tongue unable to come out. Just as it was about to close, Serafina jammed her hand in the gap. The sharp pain made her eyes instantly well up. "Elias, let me just say one last thing. Tomorrow Dorian and I are going abroad. Can you bear to let me go? Just say you can't, and I'll stay for you." I stood behind the door, unwilling to look at her again. "Serafina, let's leave each other with a shred of dignity." Serafina laughed outside the door, leaning against the frame, just laughing foolishly. Her laughter turned into tears. Suddenly, my WhatsApp buzzed with a notification. Serafina snatched the phone, saw the contact name on the notification, and suddenly furiously threw the phone hard onto the ground. I was startled. "What are you doing?" Serafina's eyes were bloodshot. "If I can't have you, neither can she. Are you two together?" "Elias, look at me. I'm hurt too." "Why won't you look at me?" "Elias, I'm not going abroad. I already turned Dorian down. I'll stay here with you. Let's never be apart again, okay?" I looked at her coldly. "Get lost." It was the first time I'd ever said that to her. Serafina knew then that there was truly no chance for us anymore. After that day, I never saw her again. The following spring, I successfully got an offer from a tech giant. At the celebration party, my phone received a text message. "Elias, I'm sorry. I wish you happiness." I calmly deleted the message and returned to the private room as if nothing had happened. Elias's happiness is in Elias's hands alone. I will be happy every day from now on. The end.